Welcome to BizTech's APAC Cybersecurity Show. Today, our guest is Ms. Dr. KPS Sandhu. He's the Global Head of Strategic Initiatives at Cybersecurity at Tata Consulting Services. Now, Tata Consulting Services is a global IT services, consulting, and business solutions organization. Now, to tell us more, KP, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to an insightful conversation.
Now, for a start, KP, I'm going to put you in a spot here. Now, you have a global lens. Walk us through how cybersecurity threats in the Asia-Pacific region have evolved in the last couple of years, and how that compares to perhaps what cybersecurity is like in the West.
Sure. While there are certain nuances and we see certain specific nation-state actors and others active in the region, right? But primarily we see some of the key threat vectors are the same. You find a lot of ransomware-related attacks. Phishing, social engineering still remains to be one of the prominent gateways into organization. Supply chain related vulnerabilities are still the same. But there are then specifics as well, right? So we are seeing a lot of organizations like Dark Pink, which is an APT, which currently uses various kinds of malware, right? You will find things like seaweed and others which are used. And then they've also got certain zero-day vulnerability exploits that are being currently leveraged in the region, right? So we're finding that the ability to exploit such vulnerabilities is far faster in this region. And as a result, we are seeing that there is an increased impetus on bringing cyber to the front and center. Having said that, the primary vectors that we normally see are credential, using phishing or social engineering for credential stealing, exploiting of zero-day vulnerabilities. Lots of malware-related attacks are anyways prominent ones.
But is this also partly due to the fact that there is such a differential in terms of cybersecurity awareness across the regions? So you would have markets like Japan and Singapore, perhaps, with a high degree of awareness, but some other countries really, their awareness levels at an SME level or even at a large enterprise level is still relatively less than desirable.
That's true, and that would be a given. Right? But as they emerge, I think the kind of impact that cyber attacks are having on enterprises, it is becoming front and center. We are seeing cyber is primarily in the spotlight, and both from a national perspective, the protection of critical infrastructure, and at the organization level, making sure you have continuity of operations, you are able to build resilience, you are able to protect your IP. So those kind of critical facets are now coming to the fore. A lot of organizations today realize that if you're doing something that is critical, your customer data, all of that needs to be protected, right? I mean, cyber today envisages this entire scope of trust and bringing competitive advantage. A lot of organizations like Gartner, etc., say that going forward in the next couple of years, almost 60-70% of organizations will use cyber as a determinant to deal with them, right? To deal with various organizations, and the maturity you have will drive. So within the region, we are seeing, right? Obviously, countries like Singapore, Malaysia, they're taken the forefront, and we have seen reports out of the region that are saying that a lot of organizations, primarily in Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, have far more readiness than others in the region as well. So while it is a given that the larger developed countries have a better ecosystem, they've got larger planned budgets and planned programs for cyber. But we are at the same time seeing a lot of impetus get driven, both in terms of regulatory compliance requirements, as well as the need to be able to drive the right kind of cyber initiatives.
And also, one of the challenges is the following, and you've mentioned very clearly, even less developed markets, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, they've invested, especially in the large organizations, heavily in cybersecurity. But one of the things that perhaps we've discussed in this show previously is literally the human factor is the vulnerability, not the technology investment. Walk us
Absolutely.
through some of your insights and perhaps how organizations can overcome this problem.
So, I mean, the carbon element or the human, the weakest link in the chain in cyber today, Brian, if you ask me, is the human element. You can have the best foundation, you can put the right processes, you can bring in the best tools, but as if awareness doesn't get down till the last person on the front line, right? Anybody who's dealing with customers, who's managing the data, I mean, it just boils down to how aware you are about where your risks lie and how people need to be made aware about it. So there are 3 or 4 things that organizations should definitely look to do. One is make people aware about the implications of what they do. And if they're not aware about cyber and they click on a malicious URL, or they inadvertently don't take the right kind of precautions either while entering the organization or otherwise. I mean, we know about physical social engineering also now, right? Things like shadow surfing, etc., in public places is also not. So people today know through your LinkedIn, social media, where you are, what you might be attending, which conference you're on. So all those aspects today need to be kept in mind. So you need to have a very good awareness program, tell people about the risks they face. Second is gamify this awareness, right? Make sure you're testing them regularly, gamify it, and bring in a lot of interest. In fact, we ourselves have some internal games that we have a week-long info security fest that we cover within TCS.
Now, I
And
want to
we
stop you here, KP. That's such an interesting idea. When you gamify something that's basically an exercise that employees don't want to do, you give them an incentive to get involved in the program, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have games like, find the odd thing in the picture. So you're supposed to pick out 10 different things. So you have confidential papers lying on the table. You have your computer which is unlocked. So all of that becomes our key factors. And we also have a game based on the life of pi, right, which is about
Okay,
answering the
interesting.
right question and you get across to the other side, or the tiger inches closer to you. I mean, so those kind of games make security far more interesting and makes you get involved, engaged, and you get to the fore. So I think we need to uplift the cyber awareness programs across organizations.
Now, can I ask you then, as a head of global strategic initiatives for cybersecurity at TCS, what are your biggest concerns and challenges that keep you up at night?
So I think one of the key things is being able to simplify what we are doing with customers. Right? I think we see a lot of customers today have over the years. It's not a trend today, but over the years have thrown technology at problems, right, without fixing the fundamental processes or the kind of ecosystem you need, right? And then also the other key challenge that I feel, so one is simplification and making sure you're able to consolidate those tools and have a unified platform which gives you a single pane of visibility. Because as I said earlier, cyber is as good as your weakest link. So if you don't have a 360-degree view and you don't have a concerted visibility of where all your chinks in the armor are, you will not be able to prioritize your remediations or take the right kind of goal. The other key thing is that cyber today drives competitive advantage for customers, right? And the CISO's role is uplifting to a greater deal. But the very ask that you are asked to protect not only the enterprise but the extended digital ecosystem, right? Your integrated IT supply chain, your third party vendors. So you have a much larger mandate. So the awareness that security today has to be a collective responsibility, right? What you spoke about earlier is take that awareness down. So it should not only be enterprise awareness, but your third party vendors also should be able to drive those awareness within their staff, so that when they work with you, it is they are working at the same level of responsibility and ownership. So that collective responsibility, not only with the CISOs or the business information security officer, the BISOs, it has to be far larger across security leadership. So, and obviously, the third one, which really keeps us up at night, is cyber talent. I mean, we have a huge shortfall of people. TCS works with a lot of universities. We have our own capture the flag program for hiring people straight out of university. We have something called HackQuest, which we run every year. Fantastic program. It's able to evaluate whether you have a mindset for security and how do you do out of the box thinking, and how do you capture the flag and find vulnerable systems. Based on that mindset, then we train people and build them and bring them in. But the talent is a very big thing that we need to continuously uplift across security domains.
And KP, this war for talent is and cybersecurity talent specifically. It's a global problem, isn't it? What kind of shortfall are we looking at in Asia in 2024?
So you're right. It's there was COVID pandemic, and then I think if we are being in cyber, this cyber shortage pandemic is something that we are facing. Okay, and globally, it's about we're somewhere, the estimates say it's about 3.7 to 4 million. That's where the shortage lies. And you'll be surprised, Asia Pac. This is as per the ISC Square report. Asia Pac is somewhere in the range of 2.6 million. That's the shortfall of cyber professionals that we need to be looking at within this region, right? And the demand has been far outgrowing. If you look at last year, I think one of the highest growth in terms of addition of people in cybersecurity was in the region, right? So there is a lot of impetus, like we discussed earlier. Organizations, countries are all looking towards bringing in the right talent.
Okay, so KP, here's the problem then. So I'm a young graduate, or I've done a diploma. I'm from India. I'm from Philippines. I'm from Malaysia. I want a job that pays well. Obviously, you go to an area like this where basically there's a skill shortage. What do I need to do as a young person in order to get into cybersecurity? And how do I then, if I'm already in technology, maybe transition into a cybersecurity type role?
Yeah, I'll start with the latter part of your question. So I think one of the fundamental things we miss in security is that having a good, strong technology background really helps, right? So if you want to get into application security, if you've been a really good developer for over a period, you can make the transition because you already know how to do secure coding, how do you manage that environment, how do
and you know what to look for, right?
Correct. And you know how integrated environments work, right? How do you integrate the right kind of tools for managing security? So that is one. But in case like today with this kind of shortage, I don't think that having prerequisite experience is the only way. I mean, there are a lot of good courses out. There's a lot of impetus on building. And organizations like ours are very keen that as long as you have the right mindset and are able to be a lifelong learner. I mean, that is one thing that in security you have to be prepared to do. I know it's a very generic statement, applies to every in today's world, in every profession, right? But in security, with the attackers continuously upping the game, new vulnerabilities, every morning is a new course. Okay, you need to get up and figure out who's done what, how has the world changed, how has my environment changed, and go hammer and tongs at it.
Right? And so KP, part of the problem is also the fact that organized crime and, as you said, bad actors who are state actors have got into this business, so to speak. They've moved out of drugs, they're into cybersecurity and ransomware attacks and so forth.
Yeah, I wouldn't really take it as far as that, right? I mean, but yes, we are seeing that organizations today know that cyber is the critical, it's where the next generation of warfares are going to be fought. I don't think physical wars like what Russia, Ukraine, and Israel are undergoing are anyways there, but I think cyber is one of the underlying key themes, and you need to be able to protect your critical infrastructure, build on that a lot, and try and take it from there. So
Now,
you're right. There's a lot of focus on leveraging AI, building out new sophisticated threats, right? And at the same time, organizations will have to up their game, use AI and fight fire with fire.
and so it's a constant arms race, isn't it? As you said, wake up every morning, you're going to be dealing with something else. You've got to outsmart the bad actors.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
KP, it's been a fascinating conversation. I've really learned a lot. I'm sure the audience has as well. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Absolutely. So there are three key things that I want to really call out. Right? One is that uh, with bad actors leveraging Gen AI a lot more, right? The threats today are far more pronounced, and the frequency and sophistication has increased. So organizations need to be able to leverage AI to be able to deliver far more effective solution, right? Increase your detection, analyze millions of telemetry, and be able to figure out where your alerts are, right? And identify the bad actors. The second key thing organizations need to do is there's a rapidly proliferating compliance requirements, right? And there are various tools that are there, like sovereign cloud, which you can use to be able to protect data. And that adoption is far increasing across the board. So that is a trend that we are seeing. More and more organizations will need to get into that space and leverage cloud adoption far more safely and use sovereign cloud to ensure data protection and privacy, especially when almost 5 billion of the world's population is going to be under these privacy laws by the end of this year. The next last one, the third key point that I want to give off is that the extended digital ecosystem that organizations today have, right? The supply chain security and the vast attack surface that is coming about, right? Whether it is also including your multi-cloud environments or your OT, IoT environments. So that extending your cyber posture to your extended digital ecosystem is an imperative that organizations must definitely go after. And at the end, I just want to close by saying, Brian, that the spotlight today is firmly on cyber, right? And we feel that the CISO role is now going to move. It's not only going to be tactical and operational. While you need to be on the frontier and defend your organization, you're going to have a far more strategic hat on your head, and it implies that the language of the board and CISO needs to be spoken. You need to deliver competitive advantage through cyber and ensure customer trust, not only customer, regulators, investors, customers' trust is protected. I think that's my snapshot of it.
Now, Dr. Sandhu, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure, and what a wonderful chat. I would look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking to Dr. KPS Sandhu, who's the Global Head of Strategic Initiatives, Cybersecurity at Tata Consulting Services. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been listening and watching BizTech's APAC Cybersecurity Show. Catch this conversation and more on www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.